Here's why most of you will still be in the same place 5 years from now. You're waiting for success to change how you carry yourself instead of changing how you carry yourself to attract success. You think confidence comes after achievement, but achievement comes after confidence. You believe you'll start acting successful when you become successful while you're waiting for your circumstances to improve so you can feel better about yourself. Successful people are feeling better about themselves to improve their circumstances. You're living backwards, and that's why you're getting backwards results. The world doesn't owe you anything until you start showing up like you're worth something. Let me tell you something that will change how you approach every single day from this moment forward. I've watched thousands of people over the years, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that there's one thing that separates those who make it from those who don't. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not even hard work, though that matters too. It's something much more fundamental than all of that. The people who succeed carry themselves like they've already made it. They walk different, they talk different, they think different. They act as if their success is not a question of if, but when. And you know what happens when you start carrying yourself that way? The world starts treating you that way too. Now, most people have this backwards. They think they'll start acting successful when they become successful. They're waiting for the money to show up before they start managing it well. They're waiting for the opportunity before they start preparing for it. They're waiting for respect before they start respecting themselves. That's like waiting for the harvest before you plant the seeds. It doesn't work that way. Success doesn't work from the outside in, it works from the inside out. You've got to become it before you can have it. You've got to act it before you can attract it. You've got to carry yourself like it's already done before it actually gets done. I learned this lesson the hard way. Years ago, when I was broken, struggling, I was carrying myself like a broken, struggling person. My shoulders were slumped, my voice was uncertain, I dressed like I couldn't afford better because I was thinking like I couldn't afford better, and guess what? People treated me exactly like what I was projecting. I was getting exactly what I was expecting to get, which was not much. But then something shifted. I started studying successful people, not just what they did, but how they carried themselves. I noticed they had a certain confidence, a certain presence. They walked into rooms like they belonged there. They spoke as if their words mattered. They made decisions as if they knew what they were doing, even when they were figuring it out as they went along. I watched how they handled setbacks. When things went wrong, they didn't crumble. They didn't start questioning everything about themselves. They treated problems like temporary inconveniences, not permanent statements about their worth. They maintained their composure because they knew that how they responded to difficulty would determine how quickly they moved through it. I noticed they invested in themselves differently. While others were spending money on things that made them feel better in the moment, successful people were spending money on things that would make them better in the long run. They bought books instead of entertainment. They paid for courses instead of conveniences. They invested in their minds instead of just their immediate comfort. They also talked about their goals differently. They didn't say, I hope this works out, or maybe someday I'll be able to afford that. They said things like, when I reach my goal, and after I build my business. Their language reflected certainty, not wishful thinking. They spoke about their future success as if it was as certain as tomorrow's sunrise. So I started practicing. Even though my bank account was small, I started carrying myself like someone who knew how to handle money. Even though I wasn't speaking to big audiences yet, I started speaking with the confidence of someone who had something valuable to say. Even though I wasn't successful yet, I started acting as if success was inevitable. I started changing my language first. Instead of saying, I can't afford it, I started asking, how can I afford it? Instead of saying, I don't know if this will work, I started saying, I'm learning what it takes to make this work. Small changes in language led to big changes in thinking, and changes in thinking led to changes in action. And you know what happened? things started changing. Not overnight, but gradually. People started treating me differently because I was treating myself differently. Opportunities started showing up because I was carrying myself like someone who was ready for opportunities. The first thing I noticed was how differently people responded to me in conversations. When I started speaking with more conviction, people listened more intently. When I started carrying myself with more confidence, people started asking for my opinion on things. When I started dressing like someone who took himself seriously, others started taking me seriously too. I remember the first time someone introduced me to their colleague as someone you should know. That had never happened before. But it wasn't because my circumstances had changed dramatically. It was because my presence had changed. I was showing up differently, so people were responding to me differently. Here's what most people don't understand. The world is always watching. People are always making decisions about you based on how you present yourself. They're deciding whether to trust you, whether to do business with you, whether to recommend you, whether to invest in you, all based on the signals you're sending about who you are and what you're about. When you carry yourself like someone who doesn't really believe in what they're doing, people sense that uncertainty and they become uncertain about you too. But when you carry yourself like someone who knows where they're going and knows they're going to get there, people want to be part of that journey. They want to support that kind of confidence because it's rare and it's attractive. I started noticing that opportunities weren't just random events that happened to lucky people. Opportunities were constantly flowing around all of us, but they were only visible to people who were carrying themselves like they were ready to receive them. Success wasn't just about working hard. It was about working hard while positioning yourself to be noticed, respected, and chosen. Here's what I want you to understand. Your current results are a perfect reflection of who you've been being, not who you're capable of becoming. If you want different results, you've got to start being different. And being different starts with carrying yourself different. The way you walk into a room announces who you think you are before you even say a word. The way you shake hands tells people whether you believe in yourself. The way you speak tells everyone listening whether you think your words have value. Your posture, your pace, your presence, it's all communicating something about what you believe about yourself and your future. Most people are walking advertisements for their limitations. Their body language is saying, I don't really believe this will work out. Their tone of voice is saying, I'm not sure I deserve this. Their actions are saying, I'm not ready for the next level. And then they wonder why they keep getting the same old result. But what if you started carrying yourself like someone who was absolutely certain of their success? What if you walked with the confidence of someone who knew their breakthrough was right around the corner? What if you spoke with the authority of someone who had already figured it out? I'm not talking about arrogance. Arrogance is trying to convince others you're something you're not. I'm talking about quiet confidence. I'm talking about carrying yourself with the dignity and certainty that comes from knowing where you're headed and knowing you're going to get there. Your inner conversation is running the show whether you realize it or not. All day long you're having a conversation with yourself about yourself. You're either building yourself up or tearing yourself down. You're either reinforcing your potential or reinforcing your limitations. And that internal conversation is shaping everything about how you show up in the world. Most people have a terrible relationship with themselves. They talk to themselves in ways they would never let anyone else talk to them. They're constantly criticizing, constantly doubting, constantly reminding themselves of every mistake they've ever made and every reason why they might not make it. But successful people have learned to be their own best friend instead of their own worst enemy. They've learned to speak to themselves with encouragement instead of discouragement. They've learned to focus on their potential instead of their problems. They've learned to remind themselves of their strengths instead of constantly highlighting their weaknesses. Here's the thing about your inner conversation. It's not just affecting how you feel about yourself, it's affecting how you carry yourself. And how you carry yourself is affecting how the world responds to you. If you're walking around with a conversation in your head that says, I'm not sure I can do this, that uncertainty is going to show up in your voice, in your posture, in your decision making. Your inner conversation is like a radio station that's always playing in the background of your life. Most people have tuned into a station that plays nothing but doubt, fear, and limitation. All day long, they're listening to thoughts about why things won't work out, why they're not good enough, why they should be careful and not take risks. But successful people have learned to change the station. They've tuned into a frequency that plays confidence, possibility, and solutions. When a problem comes up, instead of immediately thinking about everything that could go wrong, they start thinking about what could go right. Instead of focusing on why they can't do something, they focus on how they can do it. I met a man once who had lost his job after 20 years with the same company. Most people in his situation would have spent their time complaining about how unfair it was, how hard the job market had become, how nobody wanted to hire someone his age. But this man had trained his mind differently. His first thought wasn't, why did this happen to me? His first thought was, what opportunity is this creating for me? He spent the first week after losing his job not feeling sorry for himself, but getting excited about possibilities he had never considered before. He started thinking about skills he had developed that he could use in new ways. He started thinking about industries he had always been curious about, but never had the chance to explore. He started thinking about the kind of work environment he really wanted instead of just the kind he had settled for. Within 3 months, he had started his own consulting business using the expertise he had gained over 20 years. Within a year, he was making more money than he had ever made as an employee. But here's the key. It wasn't the job loss that created his success. It was how he chose to think about the job loss. It was the conversation he had with himself about what it meant and what was possible. Your mind is the most powerful tool you have, but most people are using it against themselves instead of for themselves. They're using it to rehearse failure instead of success. They're using it to practice worry instead of confidence. They're using it to imagine everything that could go wrong instead of everything that could go right. This isn't about positive thinking for the sake of positive thinking. This is about practical thinking. This is about having conversations with yourself that actually help you instead of hurt you. This is about using your mind as a tool for success instead of as a weapon against yourself. I want you to start paying attention to the tone of your inner voice. Is it encouraging or discouraging? Is it building you up or tearing you down? Is it focused on problems or solutions? Is it reminding you of your failures or preparing you for your successes? Most people would be shocked if they could hear their own inner dialogue played back to them. They would never let a friend talk to them the way they talk to themselves. They would never let someone else be as critical, as harsh, as limiting as they are with their own thoughts. But if your internal conversation is saying, I've got what it takes, and I'm figuring this out, that confidence is going to be evident in everything you do. People can sense it, they can feel it, and they respond to it. I want you to start paying attention to how you talk to yourself. What are you saying about your chances? What are you saying about your abilities? What are you saying about your worthiness to succeed? Because whatever you're saying to yourself about yourself is what you're going to start believing about yourself. And whatever you believe about yourself is what you're going to start projecting to the world. The most successful people I know have learned to be selective about their thoughts the same way they're selective about their friends. They don't let just any thought hang around in their mind any more than they'd let just any person hang around in their living room. They've learned to question thoughts that don't serve them and to cultivate thoughts that do. When you start carrying yourself like success is inevitable, something interesting happens. You start making different choices. You start saying no to things that don't align with where you're going. You start saying yes to things that do. You start investing in yourself differently. You start managing your time differently. You start approaching challenges differently. See, When you truly believe you're going to make it, you start treating yourself like someone who's going to make it. You start taking better care of your health because you know you're going to need energy for all the success that's coming. You start improving your skills because you know you're going to need them. You start building relationships because you know you're going to need a network. Most people are living in dress rehearsal mode. They're always getting ready to get ready. They're always preparing to prepare. They're waiting for someday when they'll finally be ready to go after what they really want. But successful people understand that life is not a dress rehearsal. This is it. This is the real thing. And they show up accordingly. Here's what I've learned about preparation. It's not about being perfect before you start. It's about being prepared enough to begin and committed enough to learn as you go. Every expert was once a beginner. Every master was once a mess. Every professional was once an amateur. But they all had one thing in common. They started before they felt ready. Preparation is to prepare in private what you want to perform in public. While others are waiting for the perfect moment, successful people are creating perfect preparation. They're reading books about their industry when nobody's watching. They're practicing their skills when nobody's listening. They're studying their craft when nobody's paying attention. I know a businessman who spent 2 years studying real estate before he bought his first property. He read every book he could find. He attended seminars. He talked to successful investors. He analyzed deals that he wasn't even ready to make yet. When he finally had enough money to invest, he already had the knowledge to invest wisely. His first deal was successful because he had practiced in his mind 100 times before. That's the power of mental rehearsal. Champions in every field use this technique. Athletes visualize perfect performance before they compete. Speakers rehearse their presentations in their minds before they take the stage. Entrepreneurs think through business scenarios before they encounter them in real life. You don't get ready and then start. You start and then get ready. You don't wait until you feel confident to act confident. You act confident and then you become confident. You don't wait until you're successful to carry yourself successfully. You carry yourself successfully and then you become successful. I remember when I first started speaking professionally. I wasn't a polished speaker yet. I didn't have all the stories and strategies I have now. But I carried myself like someone who had something valuable to share. I walked on stage like I belonged there. I spoke with conviction even when I wasn't completely sure of myself. And you know what happened? The audience responded to my confidence more than my content. They could sense that I believed in what I was saying and that I believed in my ability to help them. That confidence was contagious. It made them more receptive to the message. It made them more likely to take action on what they learned. That's the power of carrying yourself like it's already done. It's not about pretending to be something you're not. It's about becoming the person you're meant to be before circumstances force you to become that person. It's about growing into your potential instead of waiting for your potential to come looking for you. Think about this. Every skill you have now was once something you couldn't do. Every strength you have now was once a weakness. Every area where you're confident now was once an area where you were uncertain. You became good at those things by practicing them before you were good at them. You developed confidence in those areas by acting confident before you felt confident. The same principle applies to success. You develop the capacity for success by acting successful before you are successful. You develop the habits of successful people before you have the results of successful people. You develop the mindset of someone who wins before you start winning consistently. This is what I mean by carrying yourself like it's already done. You're not pretending you've already achieved your goals. You're living as if achieving them is inevitable. You're making decisions from the place you're going, not the place you've been. You're thinking thoughts that align with your future, not thoughts that keep you stuck in your past. When you start operating this way, you begin to close the gap between who you are and who you're becoming. You begin to align your daily actions with your ultimate aspirations. You begin to show up as the person you need to be to get where you want to go. Let me tell you about a young woman I met who understood this principle perfectly. She wanted to become a successful entrepreneur, but she was working as a secretary making minimum wage. Instead of waiting until she had her own business to start thinking like a business owner, she started immediately. She began reading business magazines during her lunch breaks. She started networking with entrepreneurs in her spare time. She began saving money and tracking expenses like someone who already owned a company. Most importantly, she started making decisions like a successful business owner would make them. When her friends wanted to go out and spend money on entertainment, she would ask herself, is this what a successful entrepreneur would do with this money right now? Usually the answer was no. So she would invest that money in her education or save it for her future business instead. She carried herself differently at work too. Even though she was just a secretary, she dressed professionally, she spoke with confidence, she offered solutions instead of just reporting problems. She treated her employer's business like it was her own. Within 6 months, she had been promoted twice. Within 2 years, she had saved enough money to start her own business. Within 5 years, she was employing people who were making the same mistakes she used to make. The key was that she didn't wait for her circumstances to change to start being the person she wanted to become. She started being that person immediately, and her circumstances changed to match who she was being. This is what I call living from your future instead of living from your past. Most people make decisions based on who they've been and where they've come from. But successful people make decisions based on who they're becoming and where they're going. Most people are trying to get somewhere while being someone else. They want success, but they're carrying themselves unsuccessfully. They want respect, but they're not respecting themselves. They want opportunities, but they're not positioning themselves as someone who's ready for opportunities. But when you start carrying yourself like the person you're becoming instead of the person you've been, everything shifts. Your energy shifts. Your presence shifts. Your results shift. The world responds to who you're being, not who you're trying to be. It responds to your energy, your confidence, your certainty, and all of those things are under your control right now. You don't have to wait for permission to be confident. You don't have to wait for external validation to carry yourself with dignity. You don't have to wait for success to start acting successful. You can start right now, right where you are, with what you have. You can start walking differently today. You can start speaking differently today. You can start thinking differently today. You can start carrying yourself like the success you're working to become is already done. Because here's the truth. If you're serious about changing your life, if you're serious about achieving your goals, if you're serious about becoming who you're capable of becoming, then you've got to start acting like it. You've got to start carrying yourself like it. You've got to start living like it. The moment you truly decide that your success is inevitable, everything about you changes. Your walk changes. Your talk changes. Your decisions change. Your standards change. Your expectations change. And when all of that changes, your results have no choice but to change too. So let me ask you this. What would be different about how you carry yourself if you knew with absolute certainty that you were going to achieve every goal you've set for yourself? How would you walk? How would you speak? How would you make decisions? How would you treat yourself? How would you treat others? Whatever your answers are to those questions, that's how you need to start carrying yourself right now. Not when you get there, not when you feel ready, not when you think you deserve it. Right now. Your future is not some distant destination you're hoping to reach someday. Your future is being created by who you're being today. And who you're being today is being communicated through how you're carrying yourself today. So carry yourself like it's already done. Walk like you've already won. Speak like you already know. Act like you've already arrived. Because the truth is, the moment you start carrying yourself that way, you have arrived. You've arrived at the place where success becomes inevitable instead of just possible. And that's where everything you want is waiting for you. But let me be clear about something. This isn't about pretending. This isn't about putting on an act or trying to fool anyone. This is about becoming. This is about growing into the person you're meant to be instead of staying stuck as the person you've always been. When I tell you to carry yourself like it's already done, I'm not telling you to lie to yourself or to others. I'm telling you to live from your potential instead of your past. I'm telling you to make decisions based on who you're becoming, not who you've been. I'm telling you to align your daily actions with your ultimate aspiration. Success is not something that happens to you. Success is something that happens through you. It's not an event that occurs outside of you. It's a way of being that occurs inside of you, and that way of being gets expressed through how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you think, how you act, and how you treat yourself and others. The moment you truly decide that your success is not just possible but inevitable, everything about your life begins to change. Your standards change because you know you deserve better. Your choices change because you know what aligns with where you're going. Your relationships change because you start attracting people who support your vision instead of people who doubt it. Your daily routine changes because you start doing things that successful people do instead of things that unsuccessful people do. Your investments change because you start putting your money into things that will help you grow instead of things that just help you get by. Your conversations change because you start talking about possibilities instead of problems. Most importantly, your self-picture changes. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is trying to become successful and start seeing yourself as someone who is becoming successful. You stop hoping you'll make it and start knowing you'll make it. You stop wondering if you have what it takes. This shift in self-premiere is not just psychological, it's practical, because when you truly see yourself as someone who is destined for success, you start acting like it, and when you start acting like it, you start getting the results that prove it. And when you start getting results that prove it, your confidence becomes unshakable. That's the power of carrying yourself like it's already done. It's not about arrival, it's about becoming. It's not about pretending you're there, it's about knowing you're on your way. And when you know you're on your way, really know it, everything about how you show up in the world changes. So I challenge you, starting today, right now, begin carrying yourself differently. Walk with purpose, speak with conviction, make decisions with confidence, treat yourself with respect, invest in your future, believe in your potential, and watch how the world begins to respond to the new you. Your success is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And when you start carrying yourself like that's true, when becomes now.